Welcome to the TYBSc class, Lecture 3. I am Dr. Jayashree Bandal from Microbiology Department, KTHM College, Nasik. Here in this class, we are going to study the Paper 3 Enzymology, Chapter 1 or Topic 1 Enzymes. In the Chapter 1, we have to study about the structure of enzymes. In the earlier lectures, we have already studied the other aspects regarding the structure of enzymes. In this lecture, we are going to study the use of NMR spectroscopy for determining the structure of enzymes. In the structure of enzymes, we are going to study this topic with particular respect to the methods used to determine the amino acids at the active site of the enzyme. There are two types of methods, physical methods and chemical methods. The chemical methods we have already studied in our earlier lectures. Amongst the physical methods, the X-ray crystallography also we have studied in the lecture number 3, and today we are going to study the details of nuclear magnetic resonance. In the learning objectives, by the end of the lecture, the student should be able to describe the active site mapping by NMR with respect to its principle, procedure and applications. To introduce the topic, we earlier have studied many different aspects of a living cell, a microbial cell, and we know that functions in a living cell depend upon structure and function of the proteins and enzymes. That is, the proteins, they contribute to the structure of a living cell, whereas they also have a major role to play in the function of the metabolic activities of the living cell. NMR helps us to study the 3D structure, and studying the 3D structure of a protein will help us to understand the mechanism of action of a protein. Whether it is a structural protein, what should be its structure to carry out or to give that particular structure, or if it is an enzyme, how will it bind to the substrate and convert it to the product. The interaction of proteins with other molecules like the substrate or the cofactor, the coenzyme, also can be studied with respect to the activity of the proteins. Change in structure of the proteins that are associated with the diseases and many other aspects. In the current scenario of pandemic, we are hearing that the COVID-19 virus is changing its structure. And the change in structure of the COVID-19 virus is associated with its virulence. This can be studied with NMR spectroscopy. NMR spectroscopy is a tool to study the chemical structure of most of the organic compounds. It is opposite to crystallography because we can work with the aqueous solutions. It gives us more information than X-ray crystallography regarding to the conformation of that particular compound. It is used for the studies of proteins that are hard to crystallize, and so these proteins that are hard to crystallize cannot be studied by X-ray crystallography. These can now be studied by NMR spectroscopy. We can use the NMR spectroscopy in the studies of folding of the proteins or the enzymes. And this folding of the proteins or the enzymes is responsible for the conversion of the primary structure of the proteins to the secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure. The proper folding of the structure is very much important because it is going to expose the proper active site where the substrate will bind. So any problem with the folding is going to mask the active site, and thus it is going to affect the binding properties of the enzyme to the substrate. It also helps us to study the intra and intermolecular interactions of the protein. The intramolecular interactions are responsible for the secondary, tertiary and quaternary structures. The intermolecular interactions are the interactions of the enzyme with the other components like substrate and coenzyme, or the units of the enzymes in the quaternary structure. Thus, nuclear magnetic resonance is a physical phenomenon in which the nuclei of the atoms become unstable when they are subjected to a strong magnetic field, and they respond by producing an electromagnetic signal with a frequency characteristic of the magnetic field at the nucleus. To come down to the history of nuclear magnetic resonance, we are going to just be grateful to some important contributions of the scientists which have led to the development of the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. First one is Rabi, who, who has contributed to the resonance method for recording the magnetic properties of atomic nuclei. He was the first one to find that atomic nuclei can resonate. And for this contribution, he was awarded a Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 1954. Bloch and Purcell, they developed newer methods for nuclear magnetic precision measurements. They also were awarded a Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 1952. Ernst developed the methodology for high resolution nuclear magnetic resonance, which gave us a better insight into the structure of the various compounds. And he also was awarded a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1991. Guthrie showed that NMR could be used for studies of the biological molecules like proteins, which was a big gateway for the biologist to study the whole metabolic processes that operate in a living cell. He too was awarded a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2002. Lauterberg and Mansfield used this particular technique in medicine, and they have created a great history and have been a boon to all the doctors for diagnosing some very complicated diseases which can be diagnosed by studying the intramolecular structure of the various organs. They also were awarded a Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2003. The principle can be explained elaborately in this way. We know that every atom has a nucleus and an electron which is spinning in the orbital, which is present in the orbitals that are around the nucleus of the atom. All the atoms that have an odd atomic number, that is the number of protons in the nucleus, have a nuclear spin. These are the examples of the atoms having odd atomic number. The spinning charged nucleus generates a magnetic field and behaves like a magnet. So the spinning protons can be compared to the behavior of bar magnets when they are placed in an external magnetic field. So here I have illustrated how the hydrogen atom will spin when it is placed in a magnetic field. And it can be compared with a typical bar magnet. A rotating charged hydrogen atom, when placed in a strong magnetic field which is present or which is provided in the NMR machine, it will spin, and this spin is called as an alpha spin. It spins to orient itself in the direction of the magnetic field that is present in the NMR machine. In this way, it forms a stable structure. When this stable structure is irradiated, is energized with the help of electromagnetic radiation, microwaves, it will again spin, and this spin is called as the beta spin. And this beta spin is in the opposite direction of the magnetic field that is present in the NMR machine. The difference in the energy level of the excited and the ground state of the charged particle, that is, we have charged it with the electromagnetic radiations, and so it has gone or it has reached the excited state. The difference in the ground state and the excited state that has been created by the electromagnetic radiations is directly proportional to the applied magnetic field. So this atom, when it is in the excited state, when it returns to the ground state, it emits radiations that lies in the radio frequency region of the spectrum. Such signals are captured, amplified and recorded as NMR spectrum. The Fourier transform then converts it to a model. The equipment for NMR includes the sample holder, electromagnet, microwave source, and a receiver to accept the radio signals that are emitted by the sample. We shall see the procedure now, the various steps in the procedure, how to subject our particular sample of protein to NMR spectroscopy. For this, we need an extremely purified protein sample in aqueous solution, which is placed between the north and south pole of the electromagnet. We require about 300 to 600 microliters of the aqueous sample with a protein concentration of 0.1 to 3 millimolars, which is much less than 10 milligrams per ml, which is required for X-ray crystallography, which is too high to obtain. This sample is then irradiated with the electromagnetic radiations, that is the microwaves. The signals that are emitted by the sample, as we have seen in the earlier principal part, these signals are recorded as series of peaks on the line or lines on a paper. This is how they are recorded. And this data is then interpreted by the mathematical treatment called the Fourier transform system. So this is how we can illustrate the NMR spectroscopy work. So this is your sample tube, which is first placed in a magnetic field, and it emits the radio frequencies. They are collected by the transmitter and then they go to the recorder, and this is how we see the final record. Shield effect is something that is very important in obtaining or in studying the structure of a particular compound. So let us study what the shield effect is. Protons are surrounded by electrons. Now protons are not only surrounded by electrons of its own, but they are also surrounded by electrons of the other atoms that are next to it or that are adjacent to it. So the electrons of the other atoms that are present or that are surrounding the protons, they cover the protons from the external magnetic field. In other words, these electrons, they protect these protons from the effect of the external magnetic field and affect the radio frequency emitted by them, obviously. So, the shielded protons thus need less energy to spin because they are shielded. They are not affected by the external magnetic field. They don't need more energy. Whereas the de-shielded protons, which are not surrounded by the electrons of other atoms, need more energy to spin. For example, hydrogen is a magnetic element. Normally, it emits a radio frequency of 426 MHz if it is kept in a magnetic field of 100 kilogauss. But depending upon the number of electrons and the type of atoms that are adjacent to hydrogen, this is going to change. The radio frequency that it is going to emit is going to change. And this helps us to determine the structure of a complete compound. We'll illustrate it here. So in this structure, you'll see that this hydrogen atom is away from the electrons of carbon, whereas these three atoms are close to the carbon and so they are shielded with the electrons of the carbon. This being away from the electrons of the carbon, it has no shield. Since it has no shield, it will require more energy to reach or to spin, whereas the shielded electrons will require less energy to spin. So here you can see that you get a peak of the not shielded or the de-shielded hydrogen first, whereas the shielded hydrogens, the peak, to acquire that peak, you need more amount of energy. These resonance frequencies of different types of nuclei are different. The NMR spectra thus for each type of atom which has odd atomic number can be generated in this way. Coming down to the applications, the important applications in medicine, which at least the word MRI we have studied or we have heard, we have not studied, but we have heard here and there whenever some of our near ones or the dear ones are admitted and they are asked to do the MRI. So, MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. That is the use of NMR spectroscopy in determining the internal structure of that particular organ. Maybe MRI of the brain, MRI of the liver, MRI of the kidney, or any other organs, and which has helped a lot for the doctors to diagnose the various diseases. In life sciences, we apply it to study the structure of the organic molecules, as we have seen in the earlier part of the lecture. It is very important, it has important applications in molecular physics, in food science for the quality control and quality assurance, human nutrition, authentication of the foods. In pharmaceutical science, it is important also. So the key points are: a nucleus behaves like a magnet due to its charge and spin and resonates on the application of a strong magnetic field. That is, a nucleus has a charge, so it spins, it resonates when you are keeping it, when you are subjecting it to a strong magnetic field. The amount of energy that is needed for producing the resonance is then measured. The shielded and the deshielded nuclei require different amounts of energy to resonate. The NMR spectrum thus shows a peak accordingly, which we can use for the modeling. Thanks a lot. I'm very sure you have understood the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy and its application in the various fields, and I want you to be ready for the assignments that are going to follow. Thank you.